Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit. We're continuing our series of daily morning meditations, where we generally look at one or another lessons that are assigned for morning or evening prayer, what is known as the Daily Office Lectionary. We're still here at the St. Michael's Conference for Youth, and I thought today for Wednesday, let's take a look at the lesson that's assigned for evening prayer, the first lesson, and that's from the book of Maccabees, the first book of Maccabees. Remember, this is one of those deuterocanonical books written kind of between the Old Testament and New Testament period about the relationship, and this story of Maccabees is about the Greeks have taken over this region and are now insisting on the keeping of their culture rather than, of course, the culture of the Jewish nation. And particularly, they're willing stooges within the Jewish nation who are willing to acquiesce to the Greeks' request and are now undoing the work of the original covenant and the worship and the sacrifices in order to take on and become Greek, basically. And of course, this doesn't go well with Judas Maccabeus and his family members. And so we're talking about, we've built up now, we're in chapter number 2, and I'm going to jump in and start with verse number 6. And when he saw the blasphemies that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, he said, "Woe is me! Wherefore was I born to see this misery of my people and of the holy city, and to dwell there when it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers? Her temple is become as a man without glory. Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets, her young men with the sword of the enemy. What nation hath not had a part of her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? All her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman she has become a bondslave. And behold, our sanctuary, even our beauty and our glory, is laid waste, and the Gentiles have profaned it. To what end, therefore, shall we live any longer?" Then Mattathias and his sons rent their clothes, and put on sackcloth, and mourned very sore. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, which compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. And when the men of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias, "On this wise, thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengtheneth his sons and brethren. Now therefore, come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards." Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to their commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words, and to go from our religion, either on the right hand or on the left." Now, when he had left off speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar, which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. Which thing, when Mattathias saw, he was inflamed and with zeal, and his reins trembled, neither could he forbear to show his anger according to the judgment, wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar. Also the king's commissioner, who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time, and the altar he pulled down. Thus dealt he zealously for the law of God, like as Phinehas did to Zambari, the son of Solomon. Okay, so we can see things are getting heated up and hot up. And Mattathias has said, we're not going to give in to this. And when somebody was going to apostate and go ahead and make that sacrifice to the false god, to the Greeks, that's it. He was so enraged to keep the covenant that he slew that person, the Jew who was going to be apostate and to do this, and then reached out. And now we're going to have the beginning of the rebellion against this Greek authority in the name of God. So anyway, it's an exciting story if you like these kind of historical accounts of the people of God. You know, much of the Old Testament is the people of God being unfaithful and suffering the consequences. But now we're going to hear about people who are going to turn that around and ultimately are going to regain Israel to the worship of the true God. So anyway, today's Wednesday, and obviously we're still at the St. Michael's Conference, so no worship at St. John's today, but please do keep us, the conference, all of our students and our faculty in your prayers as we continue to build this community, to worship together, and to teach and instruct the young people in the faith, that they may grow in grace. And may your Wednesday be full of blessings.